taking your leftovers to the next level. Hey guys, welcome back to At the Table. Today we are going to be talking about Thanksgiving leftovers. So a lot of times we have a nice big Thanksgiving meal, maybe several Thanksgiving meals depending on your family. And then we have all these leftovers that we are just maybe in the mood to eat, but by day 2 or 3, we are just kind of sick of those Thanksgiving leftovers. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you guys some of the different things that you can do with those Thanksgiving leftovers that will help to spice them up a little bit, help them taste a little bit different rather than your traditional Thanksgiving meal, and still give it really good flavor and all of that. So we are going to be making stuffed peppers with your Thanksgiving turkey and stuffing, and then we're also going to be making Thanksgiving leftover Crunchwraps. So we're going to start over here with our stuffed peppers. And the first thing we need to do is to use about 2 cups of that leftover turkey. So I just have some sliced turkey breast here, and I'm just going to cut these up into smaller pieces. Ideally, this would need to be shredded. So if you have any kind of leftover pieces of turkey rather than those big, nice, pretty pieces, you would just go ahead and use that. So we need 2 cups total of this. So I've got my little cup measure here. I'm just going to throw this in. And we're also going to be using, it's really simple. It's just eggs, turkey, and stuffing. So not a whole lot, not very complicated. But we'll start off with that turkey. And I'm also going to go ahead and just whisk up our egg in our bowl. So we're going to take just 1 large egg is all you need, and make sure we use that flat surface, and we'll throw that egg away. And then I have my little fork. So this needs to be beaten. So just make sure you do that before you add all of your other stuff in. All right, so we've got 1 cup of turkey. Now we need 1 more cup of turkey. And you could do this with, I think ham would still be really good if you have leftover ham, if you have leftover chicken. So it doesn't have to be turkey. A lot of times turkey is a common one that we have over Thanksgiving. And when we're talking about leftovers in general, this can be with anything, but a lot of times we want to try to use fresh ingredients to help freshen up those leftovers so that they don't necessarily taste like leftovers. So that is where our fresh bell peppers come in. We're going to be adding a little bit of cheese. So that will help freshen it up. It just won't taste like a whole lukewarm, heated up meal. Okay, and up next we need 2 cups of stuffing. So it's equal parts stuffing to turkey. And there's no, doesn't have to be a special type of stuffing or any of that. This is really just what you and your family enjoy and what is your family's tradition of what y'all have each year. And think about the stuffing as kind of a placeholder for rice. So if you were to typically make a stuffed pepper, you would have like rice and cheese and then your ground meat. Instead, we just have our stuffing, which is our grain there. All right, and then you can just add a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm not going to use a whole lot because our stuffing does have some sodium added to it, and I just want to be mindful of my sodium. So I'm just going to do a light sprinkle, but Nothing crazy here. And then just mix it all together. And then we're going to prepare our peppers. All right. So for your peppers, you can use any color. I have red and orange here. It's just what had the nice sturdy bottom. So you want to choose one that sits very nicely. It can hold up when it's in the pan. So just keep that in mind. Again, do any color you like. Personally, I'm not a green pepper person, so that's why I went for the colored peppers. So when you're working with the bell pepper, you want to do what we call top it and tail. Well, we're just topping it because we're using the inside. And then what I'm actually going to do, you just push that center out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but just push that little stem out. And then what I'm going to do is chop this up. And we're actually going to dice it and add it to our stuffing mix here because we don't want to waste that bell pepper. So I'll continue doing that. As far as getting our center out, you just want to slowly work your way around. And then you can actually just pull that seed out. So it comes and pulls out very nicely. So I'm going to finish up doing the rest of our peppers here just like I did this one, and we'll see you guys back in just 1 second.
Introducing the Star Communications app. All the tools you need in one convenient location. You can access Watch TV everywhere. Check local channel lineup. Check your Star email. View and pay your Star bill. Report troubles. Use your Star Security app. Check your home voicemail. Sign up for Crowd Fiber. Check your Wi-Fi speed. The list keeps going and going. Download for free from the App Store or Google Play.
All right, so we have our peppers done. I did add a little bit of foil in between, so if you have any issues with fitting your peppers in your pan, this is also helpful if you have one of the three bottomed peppers instead of the 4. So with the pepper, it actually has either 4 kind of nodules or 3, and I actually have a big 3 guy here. This actually tells you the difference between female and male peppers. The female, which is the 4, tend to be a little bit sweeter. The 3 tends to be a little bit more savory. But the 4 nodule one seems to kind of stand up a little bit better unless you have a really big one like this one. So anyways, if you don't have enough room or if you have too much room in your pan, you can actually just add a little bit of aluminum foil in between, and that will help to keep them in place so they won't fall over while they're in the pan. So we're just going to stuff these. So we've got our stuffing. I mentioned that I put our leftover peppers into our mixture here, so that way we're not wasting at all. And you just want to fill these all the way up. I'm actually going to use my smaller spoon here, make it a little bit easier. And you're just spreading these evenly between the 4. Now, since I added the extra bell pepper, we may have a little bit of excess, but that's okay. You can use it, stir fry it up later, and that would be really good together. A little bit of spinach and egg, and you can have a whole different meal. Or if you had extra bell peppers in your fridge, then you could continue to kind of stretch it out over those. Then you also want to make sure that it's really stuffed down. So as you're putting it in the bell peppers, just kind of push it. And this mixture smells so good already. Now we were also just talking about off camera while I was finishing to cut the peppers, other ways you can cut your peppers. So you could actually cut these in boats. You could cut them in half, keeping that top part but pulling out that stem. And that way you could get a little bit more mixture with not having quite as much pepper. So if you have anybody in your family who's not a huge fan of all of the bell pepper part, I'm also that way. I kind of prefer my peppers to be cut up. I don't want to eat it whole like this. So I tend to eat a little bit of my pepper, and then I tend to just eat out of the middle. So if you have anybody like that, a boat would actually be a little bit better for your family, because you could stretch it, get more of that mixture in, and not quite have as much bell pepper, but you also get multiple boats out of that. All right, so then we're just gonna top it with our cheese. Now, make sure when you're choosing a cheese that you opt for the reduced fat, and that is just to help reduce some of that saturated fat content. You can find it at your grocery store. Try to choose the lower fat option. So we're just gonna add a good chunk. Our recipe calls for about 1.5 cups of cheese. Another option is to mix the cheese in with your bell pepper, so or with your mixture. So you could go that route and then also top it with a little bit of cheese. You just want to be mindful that you're not using too much cheese here. All right, so then you just throw those in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes and they are done. So we're going to see you back in just a second. I'm going to get these in the oven and we'll get started on our Crunchwrap next.
Sweetie, will you turn that down, please?
Keep life exciting, even when it's not. Watch TV everywhere from Star Communications.
All right, so we're moving on to our Crunchwraps. You want to start with a whole wheat tortilla, and ideally, probably the next size up than this. I got I believe these are 8-inch, and they're a little bit small. Wish I would have got just a little bit bigger. I did not see any bigger than this where I was at, but in other parts of the grocery store, so I got these from right when you walk in, they have like the sauces and all the different types of tortillas, the crunchy tortilla, Crunchwraps too, crunchy tacos, shells, all of that, and I got these there. I could probably find these towards closer to the bread aisle by the wraps. So if you want a bigger one, it might be better just for folding purposes. So anyway, this will work. We're gonna make it work. They'll just be a little bit smaller. So these are Thanksgiving leftover Crunchwraps. So you are literally using all of your Thanksgiving leftover food. Your turkey, your green beans, your mashed potatoes, your cranberry sauce, and your stuffing. So what we're gonna start off with is our mashed potatoes. So we're just gonna put a little bit of this in the middle. And mashed potatoes are my favorite food. They're not the best thing for me to eat, but I absolutely love mashed potatoes, and I really only have them a few times a year. But Thanksgiving is when I love to have my mom's homemade mashed potatoes that are hand mashed and has all the cream and butter. It's so good. All right, next we are gonna be adding our green beans. So any green beans will do, but we're just putting a little bit of these here, and just be mindful, you are gonna have a good amount of stuff in this, so be kind of sparing as you're putting things onto your tortilla. And then we're just adding a little bit of that turkey. So I did chop this up. If you had, a whole piece of turkey breast, you could throw that on top. And then we're gonna add just a little bit of cranberry sauce. This is the kind that has the whole cranberries in it. I like that better than just the more gelatinous throughout kind, but you use what you enjoy and what you have left over. And this will give it a little bit of that sweetness to it as well. And then we're gonna add our stuffing. Again, this is kind of like our rice in the dish. Our mashed potatoes are like our sauce. Our cranberry is like our sauce. And then you've got the meat with the turkey and the green beans. And then we're just gonna add a little bit of cheese. Now the recipe calls for cheddar. I did not have cheddar. It called for a white cheddar. This is just an Italian blend. Again, looking for that reduced fat. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of cooking. Actually, I'm gonna use olive oil. That's why I put them both over here. I was a little indecisive on which one. But you just want a little bit. I'm just gonna do a little dab there, and I'll coat my pan thoroughly. This is a non-stick pan, so it will be fine. But we're just gonna rotate that, and my pan is clearly nice and hot already. I have it on medium-low. This is a triple burner. It gets really, really warm. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna make little pleats. I'm gonna kind of push as I go. And hopefully I didn't mess up because I have too much in here. But you want it to be wrapped thoroughly. So you're gonna make little pleats and slowly, and I think I have just a little bit too much, slowly wrapping your way around. And as I said, this is like a mini crunch wrap, so it's a little bit smaller, but you want it so that it's got kind of the pleats all the way through. And we're gonna cook it with that folded side down. You're gonna let it cook for about 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm just gonna continue, work my way through and do the rest of our mixture here. And we'll see you guys back in just a second.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping home secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody trying to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
All right, so our peppers are done. We are gonna go ahead and pull those out of the oven. And I left them in there for a little bit over 30 minutes just because I like mine cooked really, really well. And they smell delicious, and you can just see that once the cheese on top starts to brown and the pepper itself has a nice exterior, it's not super, super sturdy anymore, it's starting to soften up. That is when we can tell that this is ready, it's good to go. It's time to pull it out. And you can smell the roasted peppers as you're pulling them out. They smell gives it almost a spicy flavor, even though these aren't a spicy pepper, just what it reminds me of. So those will be absolutely delicious. I will actually cut into one just so that you can see. I'm gonna use this. And I need a knife. Just so you can see what it looks like inside. But just everything that we put in there will help to give it this really yummy flavor. And they're very hot. Y'all just saw me pull them out, so. And it smells like Thanksgiving, but it's like a different take on Thanksgiving. It's almost a spicy Thanksgiving meal. So looks really good. I can't wait to tear into those and eat those in just a little bit. So we're gonna transition over to our crunch wraps. I have another one over here on the stovetop. So we have 2 more that are left to go. And as I said, it was a little bit difficult for me to get that Crunchwrap to be fully closed, which is perfectly okay. We have a slight opening in these, but it still works. So we're gonna keep going with those. And remember, it's our mashed potatoes on the bottom. And then you're just slowly adding the rest of your ingredients. I'm also gonna add just a little bit more olive oil. So that will just help to get our pan nice and warm. I only use that little bit for those 2 wraps. So it's maybe a teaspoon for each of your wraps. If you start to see your olive oil smoking, That is not good. We don't want any of our oil to smoke, so turn that burner down so that it's not getting to the point where it's reaching the smoking point of your olive oil. That's really what starts to make it go, well, it's not really rancid, but it's not as healthy for us once it starts to reach those higher temperatures. And that is with any oil. Any oil that begins smoking, it starts to reach a point where it's not as healthy for us. You're starting to break down the health benefits of whatever oil you're using. So we're just continuing to layer here, and this is just so easy. These would be a really good lunch for the next day if you want to make little Crunchwrap sandwiches for lunch using all of those things. And we've still got some of our vegetables here. We've got some of our fruit. So we have our mashed potatoes and our green beans, which are our vegetables, and then adding that cranberry sauce as your fruit. And our stuffing. And just keep in mind, I know around the holidays, we tend to not eat the healthiest, and that is perfectly okay. You're not going to eat perfectly every single day, right? Or even every single year. And if you think about, oh, we forgot our cheese. If you think about how frequently you eat foods like this, just like I was talking about with the mashed potatoes. I rarely get mashed potatoes, and that's okay for me to eat that stuff every now and then. We are not demonizing any certain food. We just want you to be mindful and kind of get your brain back to, is this a good choice for me? Why am I eating this food? And what will this do for my body? So sometimes we just want those foods because they taste good, and that's what we're craving. And that's okay. But we still need to be cautious of how much we're eating and trying to make healthier choices when we can. And that might not be around the holidays, and that's all right. So we're going to keep going with these. Got one more to make. And y'all just see how simple this is. So some other really great things that you can do with your leftovers, some that I just didn't have time for today because of us filming and being on camera, but casseroles are really popular to make with all of your leftovers. A lot of times you just throw everything into a casserole dish. You may even add a little bit of egg to it, some cheese, maybe a can of cream of mushroom or something like that. And you can use up all of those leftovers in a different way, and it can taste a little bit differently. I also saw a recipe for enchiladas, but to me, they were similar to these Crunchwraps in terms of being very similar to a Thanksgiving meal, all of those Thanksgiving foods put together. I like if I'm using something that is a spin on your meal, for it not to necessarily taste like that same food. So if I was going to make enchiladas with my Thanksgiving foods, I would want it to be at least a little bit spicy or taste just a little bit differently. Wouldn't necessarily want it to taste like Thanksgiving because we just had Thanksgiving, right? So there are tons of recipes out there if maybe you want to do more things with those Thanksgiving foods that we're not really talking about today. All right, so our third Crunchwrap is done. We're gonna throw our last one on. And there's still a little bit of oil in my pan, and that is plenty for me to work with here. I'm just doing about 3 to 5 minutes each side because you want it to be thoroughly melted all the way through. We are flipping it. So 3 minutes there, 3 to 5 minutes there, 3 to 5 minutes on the other side as well. So that looks really good. While that's cooking, I just wanted to talk to you guys about our Thanksgiving meal. So this, of course, is targeted towards after Thanksgiving, but in terms of our actual Thanksgiving meal, might look a little bit differently this year, but still you may be gathering with some of your family, even if it's a smaller crowd. And we just need to be mindful about our food safety. And that's not a really hot word. People don't really enjoy the word food safety, but it's very important when we are talking about Thanksgiving and foods that are sitting out for long periods of time. So here I want to show you guys what it might look like for bacteria that you may have growing over time. So when we have a meal that is sitting out for several hours, so ideally we want our food to only be out for about 4 hours. So think about from the time you put it on the table to the time that you put it away in either the fridge, or if you're reheating it or any of that, your time will start over once it's refrigerated or heated up again. But we want to leave it out for no more than 4 hours. And the reasoning behind that is because as we start to heat up, or as we start to sit things out for more than 4 hours, bacteria begins to grow. And during that 4 hours, pretend like this is your bacteria growth. Very small, very minor. It's not enough to really make us sick. Over time, after we extend past those 4 hours, the bacteria rapidly grows and it doubles, triples in size in a shorter period of time after the 4 hours time frame. So you can see, this may be 4 hours, this may be 5 hours, 5.5 hours, 6 hours, and we're starting to see that bacteria grow at a rapid pace. So we just want to be mindful of that and make sure that we are keeping our food safe. I did just see a study about, or a story about a Thanksgiving meal that everyone got E. coli from their Thanksgiving meal. So we just want to be mindful. We don't want to get our family sick, and especially in a time right now when we're in the middle of a lot of other things going on, a lot of other sickness as well. We want to make sure we're keeping everyone safe and healthy. Other tips for you in terms of food safety is making sure that we are using a thermometer. And a digital thermometer is key, but make sure that you're checking that turkey, checking any of your foods that you are making so that they're at the proper temperature. With our turkey, we want that to be at 165 degrees. So inserting that probe in all the way in the thickest part of the meat and making sure it at least gets to that temperature, if not higher. And then there's several other things. We have a lot of resources on our website. So we have basic holiday food safety, where you can hear all about things to be mindful of during the holidays when you are having a gathering with your family. And then holiday gathering and potlucks, just things to be mindful of. So we have some really great resources for you at our website, on our extension website. So you could just type in foodsafety.ces.ncsu.edu, or just Google food safety NCSU, and you will likely find these resources for you. So fun things with our food safety, and just being mindful of that during the holidays. So these look good. I think they are all done. And I'm actually going to use this first one we did because it's not quite as hot. But we're just going to cut this. I want you to see what it looks like on the inside. It's nice and soft, but still on the inside, it's still really warm and gooey. So it's like a yummy Thanksgiving meal. You could adjust the cheese and do a little bit more if you wanted to do something like more of a quesadilla type of wrap. You could add a little bit more cheese. But I hope that you enjoy this. I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family, your friends, and we will see you guys next time.